Fintechs continue to place our country on the global startup and financial maps. Beyond that, they have helped to deepen financial inclusion while making it easier to perform various types of financial transactions that were previously cumbersome and in some cases non-existent. My guest on the show has a lot to share about the impact of fintechs. Guess what? We have a lot more lined up for you right after now. I am Chukwemeka Agbata. Welcome to Tech Trends.
Blockchain technology represents a generational opportunity to mutualize database infrastructure across entities within financial services. What that translates into is an enormous cost-saving, risk-reducing, and capital-enhancing opportunity.
When one visits a traditional automated teller machine, also known as ATM, it's expected that one inserts a debit card to withdraw or deposit cash. But at this Bitcoin ATM, you can only buy or sell Bitcoin using cash. Every day, the number of cryptocurrency users and investors increases as it gains worldwide acceptance, and so is the same for Bitcoin, the most used cryptocurrency.
So once I get this QR code, I put it.
This has led to a number of developments and innovations like the Bitcoin ATMs to make the exchange process more convenient and secure for users. Adekule Daniel, a young entrepreneur with knowledge in blockchain technology development, has designed and developed a Bitcoin ATM, the first in Nigeria. He says the level of digital literacy needed to operate the machine is as simple as the knowledge one needs to operate a mobile phone.
So essentially, I was trying to solve a major problem, which is turning physical money to a digital money, because Bitcoin cryptocurrencies are digital assets. So I was looking for a way to bring that digital asset closer to the people in real time. You know, it will be very, very difficult for you to explain to someone, a novice or an illiterate, what a cryptocurrency or what digital assets are. So now, having this in my mind, I thought it and I put it upon myself to develop a technology that will revolutionize this, invention of digital assets, because I am very sure that we all need digital assets. So the best way to do it is to have a real feel of what it is.
Bitcoin machines work in similar fashion as the traditional ATMs, as they allow users to engage in financial transactions. However, they are yet different in that they are not connected to a bank account. Instead, they are linked to a Bitcoin exchange via the internet, which allows users to buy and sell Bitcoin directly and instantly.
When you tell someone that there's a machine that turns physical money, that's fiat, to cryptocurrency or digital assets and vice versa, they won't believe you. So I did few research, got into a few components, and then trained software to recognize Naira, fake Naira, and a whole lot. It took me a few years to do that. So I want to buy digital assets. So
the BTM works simply. All one needs to do is verify yourself by inputting your mobile phone number into the machine, after which a verification code by text is received to be entered into the machine. Once logged into the BTM, one can decide to buy or sell. To buy, you insert cash into the machine. A QR code is generated from your crypto wallet on your phone, which is scanned to receive the Bitcoin. And to sell, you can send Bitcoin from your digital wallet to the QR code by the ATM. The Bitcoin ATM is connected to the internet, and it comprises of a monitor, QR scanner, bill acceptor, and dispenser, all tied together via software to make Bitcoin transactions convenient and secure.
So the BTM is a device that facilitates the exchange between Naira to digital assets. So it means that if you have Naira and you need crypto, whatever crypto you need, maybe Bitcoin, Ethereum, any of those digital assets, you go to the ATM, you put in your cash. We don't accept bank cards because this system threatens the bank, right? Just like the Uber threatens all taxi systems, right? So That's why I didn't have the banking system to it. So it's physical cash. Like I am in a store, you're bringing cash, I'm taking it. So the risk is upon me to verify if the cash is real. You understand? So you go there, you put in your cash in the ATM machines, and then it verifies your cash a note a time. You see, and then it verifies. After verification, it sends you your digital asset instantly before you leave, the ATM. And then if you have digital assets and you need Naira, like the banks now, when the CBN, rolled out circular that the banks shouldn't take crypto, deposit or withdrawal. Now, a lot of people were looking for ways to, cash out their crypto. You see, so one of the reasons why we developed the ATM is for people like that. Should in case there's an issues like that, so they just go to the ATM, they put their digital assets in the ATM, and it gives them cash.
With Adekunle's knowledge in blockchain technology, developed the software and included components to make the machine friendly to crypto users in Africa.
I tailored it to Africa, right? Looking at all the challenges we have in Africa. First of all, power, right? So I had to put in place an extra power, because let's take for instance, there's no light, the ATM has to work. Now, the way we designed our compliance here, right? I added a fingerprint, which adds to the level of compliance. I added camera too. It means that I want to know my customer. If you're trading on the machine, I want to see you. I want to be able to know you and have a track record. So it's a little bit different from the usual Bitcoin ATM, because I tailored this to the African market. I trained the software and the firmware and the recycler to recognize Naira and dispense Naira, accept and dispense Naira. So immediately the digital assets for the CBN is out. That's the CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. If it's out, if we check the framework out, I can put that e-Naira into this ATM too. It means that someone can go to my ATM and put cash in it and get the e-Naira. So it's different. We're solving different problems.
Adekunle started this journey 4 years ago, and he says it wasn't a smooth one.
The journey was really rough, because then time I was solving a problem that's not existing. Now you are now knowing Bitcoin, you're coming to ask more about Bitcoin now. So reverse engineer 4 years ago, when I was building this, like, even nobody knew Bitcoin at that time. Most people don't know Bitcoin at that time. Some were skeptical. So the challenges I had was, solving a problem that is not existing. I had to, travel in and out to get components, right? Because we don't have components here. So I had to travel in and out to get components. I had to shrink components. I had no light. There was no electricity. Now, in assessing few data sets and all the information I need to put these ATMs down, it was really challenging for me. So I was looking at the component, even the component, bringing them in, customs was challenging. We got a whole lot of challenges.
Bitcoin ATMs can be unidirectional, that is, you can either convert your BTC into fiat currencies or buy BTC, and it can be bidirectional, which allows you to do both. This Bitcoin ATM by Adekunle Daniel offers the two-way function, and with the increased adoption of cryptocurrencies, we might be seeing more of these BTMs around.
A solar-powered motorhome shaped like a huge elongated teardrop silently rolled into Madrid as part of a month-long journey from the Netherlands to southern Spain to highlight more sustainable modes of transport. Engineering students at the Technical University of Eindhoven in the Netherlands created the blue and white vehicle named Stella Vita, Latin for Star and Life, to inspire car makers and politicians to accelerate the transition toward green energy.
The lifting roof is the most particular feature because, like, when you're driving, you want to be small, you want to be aerodynamic. So the roof is folded down. However, when you're standing still, you can imagine you need to stand inside to work, drive, or like to cook something. And that's why the roof comes up in total. But besides the roof coming up, additional solar panels will slid out on both sides to increase the solar panel surface up to 17.5 square meters, which is of course quite much for a solar vehicle.
Expansive solar panels on the roof on a lateral wings that unfold when the vehicle stops allow self-sustaining house on wheels or show to travel up to 740 kilometers on a sunny day, while the battery can also power a fridge, coffee maker, a laptop and two-person cabin. To make up for days when the sun isn't shining, the car has been designed so it can be charged on an electrical grid.
The biggest challenge was the trade-off between aerodynamics and looks. Because of course, if you want to live inside, it needs to be comfortable and it needs to look nice. And of course, you want the vehicle to be very efficient as well. But an efficient vehicle has a strange shape. So we try to combine aerodynamics, so a different shape, together with the looks of the vehicle.
Lot van Dasla, 23-year-old biomedical engineering student who spent the last year working on the project, is particularly pleased with the vehicle's combined information and entertainment system, which provides real-time data on energy consumption and production, forcing the driver to carefully consider the trade-off between different uses. With no power steering or assisted braking, the show is tricky to maneuver around tight spaces but can cruise comfortably down the highway at 120 kilometers an hour. After 2 weeks on the road, the group expects to arrive in Spain's southernmost point of Tarifa before taking the car to design shows and exhibitions around Europe. A team of engineers at the University of Newcastle in Australia have patented a world-first material specifically designed to store thermal energy in the form of a block. The blocks made from aluminum and graphite store renewably generated energy to redispatch it at night or when needed, with their research predicting the blocks can last about 30 years without any charge in reliability. Co-inventor of the miscibility gaps alloy or thermal block and CEO of MGA Thermal, Eric Kissy, said the team were working on thermionic converters when they had the breakthrough.
We had a small device working in the laboratory, all having a cup of tea, congratulating ourselves on that, when we thought about how's this going to operate at night. And that was a fundamental shift in our thinking, because we realised that actually the bigger part of the problem is how to store renewable energy, not how to generate renewable energy.
Able to store millions of kilowatt hours of energy, the metal mixture is processed through a mixer, then pressed and compacted into shape before being fired.
It's more the case that it's possible to have a smooth transition, and you build out the thermal energy storage at the same time as you gradually decommission one boiler after another in a power station. And that allows these billion assets that are currently worth billions of dollars but will be worth nothing in 5 years' time to be repurposed.
While many countries have pledged to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, Australia, one of the world's largest emitters of greenhouse gases on a per capita basis, has declined to firm up its targets. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has said Australia wanted to achieve net zero as soon as possible and preferably by 2050, and it expects to beat its pledge to cut carbon emissions by 26% to 28% from 2005 levels by 2030. Partnering with Swiss company E2S Power AG to design technology to retrofit and repurpose retired and active coal-fired plants in Europe using MGA Thermal's blocks, Kissy says he wants governments around the world to start recognizing the value of their solution.
Financial inclusion has been regarded as one of the most critical drivers of economic growth. This is because access to financial services have so far been proven as a means of empowering people in various ways. Over the past few years, financial technologies have gained prominence in the African continent, especially Nigeria, as an effective tool to bridge the financial inclusion gap. This, in the long run, has created an increase in consumer adoption of fintech solutions and attracted numerous investments. However, despite the strides, more needs to be done in the area of beefing up financial literacy campaigns such that individuals not only have access to these financial products and services, but are able to convert them to improve their financial status. This week's guest, Ezinne Obikile, the Executive Director at System Specs, shares how we can deepen financial inclusion.
Ezinne, glad to have you on the show today.
Thanks, Fred, for having me.
All right, let's start with an understanding of how Nigeria has fared in trying to reach the unbanked.
Okay, thank you. Over the years, the central bank has implemented various policies and regulations to improve financial inclusion. And I remember, I think it was in the 2016 review of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy that the target of 80% inclusion by 2020 was reached. However, this was again revised to 95% inclusion by 2024. Although official statistics are not out yet on what the numbers are at 2020, but going by what the NIPS has published, which is 47 million, about 46 million BVNs enrolled as at February 2021 this year. One can safely assume that almost 54 million Nigerians still do not have bank accounts. Okay, so the official survey that Elfina did as at 2018 put financial inclusion rate at 63%, which was indeed an improvement from the 58% that it was at by 2016. But even at that, if you consider what other African countries are doing, that looks very, very pale. Kenya has about 85% financial inclusion and South Africa has 90%. So from that perspective, you can clearly see that a lot still has to be done in the area of financial inclusion.
Okay, but what are some of the factors that you think is affecting this rapid growth that we should expect to see in reaching the unbanked?
The major problem, well, has been in several factors really, and I'll just touch on a few. The first one is, we don't have enough bank branches, let's face it. The banks will never, it costs money to set up a bank branch, and you don't have too many of them in the rural areas because the economics is not just right. Again, with the licensing of mobile money operators, one would have thought that we'll have moved a bit more rapidly than we have now. But again, the MMOs also prefer to operate in urban cities. You hardly find a good number of them in the rural areas. So reach is a problem. Accessibility to financial services is a problem to financial inclusion. Also, the low density in the agent network. We don't have enough mobile money agents. SANEF has done a very great job working with other stakeholders in growing the number of agents. I think we had less than 100,000 agents 2 years ago, but now we're in the region of 580, 600,000 agents, okay? If you extrapolate, you can see that gives an agency ratio of one agent to 350 people, which is still a lot. Countries like Kenya, Bangladesh, they have less than one agent to 150 persons. So if you look at it from that perspective, we still need to enroll at least 1 million agents to begin to compete with countries like Kenya and South Africa. So the agency network is an issue. Then KYC challenges as well. It costs a lot of money to acquire KYC documentation. Okay, be it in BVN. You find that most people in rural areas, they don't even have BVN. They don't have verifiable addresses. So a lot of times, you want to onboard them on platforms, you can't because they don't have the required documentation. So that has been an issue as well. Then poor infrastructure too. You don't have enough broadband services, data services in the rural areas. So no matter what you want to deploy, if you don't have network, you can't access services. So these are some of the problems that has actually affected financial inclusion generally, particularly in the rural areas.
So as a fintech, what are some of the ways you are trying to add value despite all the challenges?
Okay, so what we did, for system specs, all our solutions were actually built with financial inclusion in mind. Okay, so because of the nature of the merchants that we also serve, you know that Remitter is a flagship product today. It's used by both government and the public sector, and the private sector, and the payers, be it school fees, hospital bills, etc., are people that are located in both urban and rural areas. So in designing our payment systems, we are careful to include, multiple delivery channels to ensure that payments are accessible to everyone. Our payment gateway has multiple channels that you can use to make payments, and we have integrated with both microfinance banks, mobile money operators, and have APIs that we use to integrate our services to them so that we can extend it even beyond our immediate environment. So you go to any part of the country today, you can make a remitter payment either through a mobile agent operator or through a microfinance bank or the nearest bank branch to you. So we have consciously designed our solutions to accommodate everybody, both the unbanked and the banked.
Finally, this is probably a two-in-one question. Is number one, how do you see emerging technologies like blockchain, cryptocurrency, how do you think they would affect the future of fintech? And what are fintechs also doing to ensure they stay ahead of the game?
Okay, thanks, Fred. You know that blockchain is still an emerging technology, like you are sure of. And a lot of countries, the only implementation that we have seen that has been widespread has been in the area of cryptocurrencies, which a lot of central banks are not comfortable with because you don't actually have any control, over those transactions. However, there are other applications of the blockchain. Being a distributed ledger technology, can be applied to several uses. Okay, so the area that comes to mind, even as we are discussing financial inclusion, will be in the area of KYC as well. It is possible, and research is ongoing to prove that it is possible to store digital identities on the blockchain such that all participants in that block will have access to such identity. So once one service provider has onboarded a customer's digital identity, other people can use it without having to repeat the same process, as well. Another area that's, like I said, still largely being researched is in the area of hosting global bank accounts, such that the unbanked can actually log in, create a virtual bank account without the need to establish a physical bank account with any commercial bank. These are still, areas that are being researched. And whilst the technical research is going on, it will be necessary for financial regulators to also try and study that technology, and so that they can enact appropriate regulations that can guide practice when eventually it becomes widely adopted.
Interesting days ahead, isn't it? Thank you so much for being on the show today. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Fred, and have a lovely day.
I've been chatting with Ezine Obikile, Executive Director, System Specs, who believes that fintechs are indeed making a huge difference, but a lot more still needs to be done if we must achieve a financial inclusion status of 100%. If you ask me, I think fintechs are simply one of the best things happening to the financial industry. Today, 5-year-old fintech companies are more valuable than much older ones simply because innovation rules. That's our show for today. Please follow us on social media. You can watch these and previous editions of the show on Channels TV, YouTube, or cfablog.ng. For Tech Trends, I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.